Rainy days don't seem so wet. Stormy nights don't stay. From the moment that we met, you were worth the wait. Oh, this could be the best thing that I'll ever know. Best thing that I'll ever know.
Well, good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Thank you for being here. Happy Saturday, Memorial Day weekend. I'm hoping that the reason... Oh, hello to the person in my chat. Please hit the thumbs up and say hello. So, yeah, I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend. Well, I lost that person in my chat. So, yeah, hopefully the reason nobody's in here is because everybody's out barbecuing or spending time with their families for the weekend. I know that's why I don't have a moderator right now. It's because she's probably with her children, or her husband. But that's okay, because as soon as I go live, I don't know why. So, okay. So the name of the title for today and the thumbnail, I thought that was a cool thumbnail. Elijah View, Kasha Smith, and Sebastian Rogers. These are not cold cases yet. Let's keep it that way. And the reason why, I'll show you the reason why I say they're not cold cases. Well, seriously, Jen Coffendaffer said it was a cold case. But, okay. It sent shivers in me when I read that cold case investigator website or YouTube page was talking about Sebastian, Elijah, and Sasha. Why? They've just been gone just a little over a year. Why are they cold cases? Because law enforcement will not get off their doofuses and get out there and look for them. That's my opinion, and I'm allowed to have my opinion. So, let's bring up things right now. Fair use disclaimer. This is the fun part. Whee! I like that part. Sorry, I figured out I could do it. It didn't take much to entertain me these days. Okay. So this morning I went a little over an hour away to Hutchinson, where a friend of mine lives, because she's out with her family at the lake 20 minutes from here, further away from her house, 20 minutes further away from her house than I am. And she's out with her family. Hello, Justice Jane. And so I volunteered to take care of her dogs. So I go out there in the morning and let the dogs out and give them fresh food and water. And then I go out there in the evening and let the dogs out because her dogs, 3 of them are outside, 3 of them are inside. So the ones inside have to go outside to go potty. I mean, and they can't be left from when I go this morning till when I go tomorrow morning. So I have to go. I feel I'm responsible because I said I would take care of her dogs. So I feel like I'm responsible to go and let her dogs out. Okay, we're just getting started, Justice Jane. Um, I was a little perturbed this morning when I was doing research for today's live, and I saw that this channel called Cold Case Detective had Sebastian Rogers' name on as a cold case. In my opinion, as long as I have a voice, Sebastian's case will not go cold. So let's get into, let me turn on some music here for fair use. If I had a moderator, she'd remind me. Sorry, I can't get the Pillsbury Doughboy right now. I'm still looking for work. Oh, I understand. I have both of them still. They're laying right there on the table. So, okay. I don't know why I yawn when I go online. I hope you find a job really quick, Justice Jane. I really do. Oh, hold it. Oh, please. I don't know what happened to my screen. Okay. I gotta, you guys want to see what I'm looking at, don't you? All right.
Now utilized by investigators, it feels like, in theory, no one should be able to just up and disappear. But unfortunately, despite all of that, people still vanish without a trace. Join us in today's episode as we explore 3 disturbing cases of people reported missing in 2024.
See, unexplained cold cases. Now I can understand cold cases like Summer Wells. Okay, it's been 5 years. You know, um, it's been 5 years. That is a cold case. But people are still looking for Summer Wells. They're still keeping her name out there. And I think as long as they're keeping their name out there, it's not a cold case. Like John Benet Ramsey, that's a cold case. But people are still talking about her.
Elijah View. On February 12th, 3-year-old Elijah View was dropped off in Two Rivers, Wisconsin by his mother, 31-year-old Katrina Bauer. Living in Wisconsin Dell, Bauer drove over 150 miles to Two Rivers and left the toddler in the hands of her boyfriend, a 39-year-old man named Jesse Vang, who reportedly used extreme and abusive disciplinary methods on Elijah in an attempt to make him fear his mother. According to CNN, court documents showed that Bauer
Hold it. Oh, please. Let me get my mouse over onto the right screen. I did not know. I heard the name Elijah View, but I didn't know what that poor baby went through in only 1 week's time. In only 1 week's time. And you're very welcome, Justice Jane.
had sent the 3-year-old to Vang so he could teach her son, by example, how to be a man. The so-called disciplinary measures included cold showers and timeouts, where Elijah was made to stand up for hours on end. Bauer would later tell investigators that she made clear to Vang what sorts of methods were not to be used against her son. Elijah stayed with Vang between February 12th and February 20th. On the 14th, a photo of him was taken by his mother, who was visiting. It showed the young boy wearing a blindfold with bruising on his face. He was lying on a bed. A day later, another photo was taken, showing him standing in a corner dressed in nothing but a nappy, which was full, and his hands in a praying position.
See, I had picked my child up and carried him out right then and there. There would have been no, oh, I remember, later it'll tell in the story that when she visited the house, she was not allowed to see the child or talk to the child. I can't. Okay. It's terrible what you can't put a 3-year-old, you can't expect a 3-year-old to be a man. There's no way. This person that is hurting this child like this was not a man at 3 years old.
The Manitowoc DA would later allege that on the 16th, Elijah was left alone for an hour at Vang's residence. During the days leading up to Elijah's disappearance, several text messages were exchanged between Vang and Bauer. On February 18th, Vang wrote, "I told you to trust me. I'ma make sure he hates me being there." She replied, "Don't want him to hate you, just fear you." Vang noted that somebody had to be, quote, the bad person, and Bauer responded, "I know, but either way he can fear you and respect you." Vang claimed that Elijah feared him, quote, "but he didn't respect me. Now I'm making him respect me." If you will forgive this narrator a moment to editorialize, this behavior is beyond disgusting, abusing and terrorizing.
I agree with the narrator. Hello to the second person in chat. Please hit that thumbs up and get the algorithms out there. Okay, I agree. It's beyond disgusting what this child has to go through.
A child never leads to respect, nor does it, quote, toughen them up. It is the behavior of cowards. On the morning of February 20th, at around 7:30, Vang woke up to give Elijah breakfast, which consisted of cereal without milk. Half an hour later...
Okay, now I cannot complain about the cereal without milk thing. Okay? If he had a glass of milk, that would be totally... Because I eat cereal without milk. I personally don't like milk on my cereal. Maybe this young man didn't like milk on his cereal. Just saying. In the words of Bullhorn Betty. Just saying. But if he had a glass of milk to drink with it, that would be a different story.
The little boy was told to stand at the foot of Vang's bed and pray while Vang took a nap. According to Vang's testimony, this was the last time he saw Elijah alive. At 10:59 a.m., he called the Two Rivers Police Department to report the 3-year-old missing. An Amber Alert was subsequently issued to the residents of Two Rivers, and that afternoon, volunteers gathered to help search for the little boy. Outbuildings, vehicles.
That was quick putting an Amber Alert out. Because in Summer Wells' case, they didn't put an Amber Alert out till the next day. And in Sebastian Rogers' case, they didn't put an Amber Alert out till the next day.
Fields and storm drains were thoroughly checked for any signs of Elijah. Police used drones and scent dogs to aid with the search, but no trace of the 3-year-old was found. Jesse Vang was arrested that evening, while Elijah's mother, Katrina Bauer, was arrested the following day, having changed her story about her son's whereabouts several times while speaking with police. Over the next few days, the search for Elijah continued, eventually involving the FBI, the Wisconsin Department of Criminal Investigators, and numerous county sheriff's offices. Dive teams searched waterways, and on February 26th, a local landfill was examined for clues. The FBI announced a $15,000 reward for information, while Elijah's other family members pleaded with the public for information, noting, quote, "The pain is indescribable. We cannot express our sorrow or the desperation that consumes us. To anyone with information on Elijah's whereabouts, we plead with you to please come forward." They added that his unexplained absence is, quote, "a torment no family or child should ever face." All of that, people...
I agree with that. No child should ever be tormented like that. And no family should have to go through that. And I don't understand why the little boy wasn't left with the grandma.
will still vanish without a trace. Join us in today's episode as we explore 3 disturbing cases of people bond, especially as Elijah has not been found and many questions remain unanswered. Bauer's appeal was ultimately rejected and her child neglect charge was upped to chronic child neglect. A further child neglect charge was laid against her concerning a 6-year-old girl, believed to be her daughter, whom she left alone in the car in cold temperatures on February 14th when she visited Vang and Elijah. As for Vang, he already had a criminal history, including previous convictions for child abuse. He told investigators about some of his other so-called disciplinary tactics, which included that Elijah was not allowed to play with toys, as he was staying with Vang as, quote, punishment. Vang also revealed that Elijah was given a cold shower on February 17th after he'd filled his nappy. Both Vang and Bauer entered not guilty pleas in relation to the child neglect charges they were facing.
So at 3 years old, he got in trouble for dirtying his diaper and had to take an ice cold shower for it?
On March 14th, investigators revealed photographs of a beige 1997 Nissan Altima. They stated that police were in possession of the vehicle, but that they needed help tracing its movements the day before Elijah went missing. They requested that anyone with CCTV on their property take a look back at the footage to see if the Nissan Altima appeared in the hours between 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. 2 weeks later, on March 18th, it was announced that Elijah's blanket, described as being made of red and white plaid, was discovered on Goodwin Road, east of County Road B, in Manitowoc County. Officials noted that the blanket had been found sooner, but had only recently been confirmed as belonging to the 3-year-old. It was found 3.7 miles from the 3900 block of Mishicut Road, where Elijah had disappeared. Two Rivers Police Chief Ben Minot told WLUK that investigators had reviewed more than 10,000 video files, conducted dozens of interviews, and followed hundreds of leads in an attempt to locate 3-year-old Elijah.
So, did Elijah walk out while the guy was asleep and get 3 miles away before he woke up? And somebody picked him up and he dropped his blanket when he got picked up and put it in somebody's car? Or was his blanket placed there so it would look like he walked away?
Quote, "We literally went into every home, talked to everybody that lived in each home. We checked every room, every cabinet, everything in those homes. But Elijah is still missing. The 3-year-old was last seen in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, on February 20th, 2024. He is described as a half-white and half-Hmong male with sandy brown hair and brown eyes. He is 3 feet tall and weighs around 45 pounds. At the time of his disappearance, he was wearing grey jogging bottoms, a long-sleeved dark-colored top, and red and green dinosaur slip-on shoes. He has a birthmark on his left knee. If you have any information about Elijah's whereabouts, you can contact the Two Rivers Police Department at 844-267-6648.
Okay. Now I'm going to switch. Okay, it didn't switch. Okay. let me stop this screen. I'm going to switch over to another story about Elijah Vu. All right. This is from Law and Crime, and the links are in the description of my page down below. So, Law and Crime, it looks like Nancy is here. Okay, so we're going to find out a little bit more about Elijah Vu.
3-year-old Elijah Vu went missing in northeast Wisconsin, and now the little boy's remains are finally recovered. But there's still so many unanswered questions.
They found him. They found him.
In this case, like, how did Elijah get there? How long has he been there? And above all, how did he die? We're taking a closer look at the tragic story of Elijah Vu and where the investigation is headed from here. Now, we've talked about Elijah Vu multiple times here on Law and Crime, dating back to February, and that's when he first went missing. He was last seen on Tuesday, February 20th in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, which is about 30 minutes south of Green Bay. So at that time, Elijah was staying with Jesse Vang. That's his mother, Katrina Bauer's boyfriend. And according to court docs, Katrina Bauer dropped her son off with Jesse Vang, who planned to keep the boy for about a week. And the purpose of this visit was simple: to teach the 3-year-old how to be a man. We learned a lot about this through the original criminal.
Like I said before, a 3-year-old cannot be a man. He's 3 years old.
Complaint that Vang referred to this discipline as timeouts, but then compared them to boot camp. This included things like making Elijah stand up for 3 hours at a time and then repeatedly chant, "I'm sorry, mommy." Vang also threatened Elijah with cold water, and this is something he knew that Elijah was scared of. And now, an amended criminal complaint paints an even darker picture about Vang and Katrina Bauer's alleged abuse. Days before Elijah went missing, quote, Katrina Bauer and Jesse Vang begin discussing Katrina coming to Jesse's apartment for sex. Jesse says that Katrina cannot see victim child 1, that's Elijah, when she gets to the apartment, and that victim child 1, Elijah, can be placed in the bathroom while they have sex. A few days later, disturbing text messages were sent between the pair when Jesse Vang messages Katrina Bauer, quote, "I told you to trust me. I'ma make sure he hates me and being here." She responded, quote, "Don't want him to hate you, just fear you." Jesse then responds, "It's okay, someone had to be the bad person." It's also important to note that Katrina Bauer actually lived in the Wisconsin Dells. That's in the central part of the state. She'd put Elijah in the care of Jesse Vang, who lived in northeast Wisconsin in the city of Two Rivers. That's about 3 hours from the Dells. So it was there in Two Rivers where Jesse Vang first reported Elijah missing. Now, according to Vang, he woke up at about 7:30 the morning of February 20th.
Okay. To prepare his son for school. At 3 years old, they don't go to school. Did this Jesse guy have another child? He took his son to the bus stop and locked the apartment door. Upon returning to the apartment, Vang found victim still sleeping on the sofa. He woke the victim up and they ate breakfast. He reported that the victim ate some cereal which had frosting on one side and wheat on the other without milk. Then they went to Vang's bedroom where victim was told to stand and pray near the foot of Vang's bed. He did not change victim's diaper as he was too tired. Victim was not allowed to do fun things as he was in a timeout. When asked about any toys at the apartment, Vang reported that there was one toy which he received at Christmas time. This toy was similar to a toolbox. However, he was not allowed to play with it during the week of February 12th to February 20th, as he was in a timeout. When he asked what happens if, oh my goodness.
After he took his son to the school bus, he and Elijah went into the bedroom of their apartment, where Elijah was, quote, told to stand and pray near the foot of Vang's bed. He did not change the toddler's diaper as he was too tired. Elijah was not allowed to do fun things as he was in timeout. That's when Vang says he decided to take a nap. And court documents state that while Vang was sleeping, he would, quote, lock the door to the apartment at the doorknob, deadbolt, and with a security chain attached at the top of the door to keep victim from walking out of the apartment. But when Vang woke up 3 hours after he first took that nap, he says Elijah was gone. That led to a statewide Amber Alert for Elijah that was active until just this month. Local and federal authorities searched the area near where Elijah went missing and used almost every tactic you can imagine. Investigators searched by air, land, and even water as Two Rivers pushes up against Lake Michigan. There was also a large presence of volunteers that aided in the search, and it lasted for months. The immediate concern was that Elijah went missing in February in Wisconsin. And while the day he went missing was more mild than usual, he was still a small boy, standing only 3 feet tall and weighing just 45 pounds. And as the search for Elijah continued, both Katrina Bauer and Jesse Vang were arrested and charged with child abuse. Law and Crime was actually in the courtroom when new charges were presented against Bauer. Prosecutor Jacqueline LeBray explained Bauer's new charges, alleging abuse against both 3-year-old Elijah and another child, age 6.
These cases obviously involve the care of some very young children. One of the children is around the age of 3, the other is around the age of 6. And not only were we dealing with the defendant sending the child to Two Rivers for discipline, or the boot camp as they described it, to make that child fearful of the co-actor so that when the child returns to her residence, he would behave better. There is also evidence that on February 14th, she left the 6-year-old unattended in a vehicle for approximately an hour in cold weather. The temperature around that time was around probably 27 to 30 degrees with the vehicle turned off. Then we have
Wow. But there's no proof of that. Okay? That's just speculation. That child could have been visiting grandma. Okay?
also as part of count 1, the chronic neglect on February 16th, leaving the 3-year-old unattended for at least an hour as her and the other co-actor are traveling to locations in the city of Manitowoc, and neither one of them are seen with the child.
At the same hearing, prosecutors alleged Bauer told Vang not to cooperate with law enforcement.
It's clear that this defendant is facing some serious charges and there's grave concern. She knows she's facing potential imprisonment, which is an incentive to flee. She also was encouraging the co-actor not to cooperate with law enforcement.
Katrina Bauer's mother even spoke out against her own daughter, making a harrowing statement.
At this time, rather than aligning in locating her son, she feels the need to reiterate what a good guy Jesse is and is fully defending him and his actions. By aligning with him, she could potentially have access to his extended family and ability to flee the area.
Oh my goodness. She thinks that everything this guy did to her child is okay? She is, in my opinion, from just this little bit I've heard about this lady, she is worse. No, I'm not going to go there.
Katrina routinely will blame anyone and everyone for what happens without taking responsibility for her actions. It goes without saying she is incapable of making appropriate judgments in everyday life.
So that court hearing we just played you was from back in March, and it's the same month when a blanket belonging to Elijah was found about 4 miles from where he was last seen. But for several months, that's almost all we knew about the case. There were still volunteers searching the area, but really no concrete information about where Elijah could be. Then on September 7th, a skull and bones were discovered in a thick wooded area just a few miles from where Elijah went missing. It was quickly determined they were human remains.
The remains were found on private property by a person getting his land ready for the hunting season. This location is just over 3 miles northwest of where he originally was reported missing. This area had been searched several times. This had been reported by law enforcement searches, by private searches, by the landowner, by air, and with various search and rescue teams. Despite all those previous efforts and throughout different conditions and changing seasons, we continued searching and even had continued searches scheduled as early as next week. The remains found by the hunter and recovered by law enforcement were taken to Wisconsin Crime Lab for DNA testing.
At the time the remains were found, investigators said it would be a lengthy process to identify them. But on September 13th, they made a difficult announcement.
It is with a heavy heart that I announce to you today, those remains were identified as Elijah Booth.
Two Rivers police announced that the Amber Alert had been canceled and a missing persons investigation had become a death investigation. The department didn't answer any questions and made no mention of Elijah's cause of death or whether Elijah's mom and her boyfriend could face charges. With so many unanswered questions still on the table, I reached out to retired NYPD detective Tom Smith. Obviously, this area has been searched many times. It's been about 7 months since this little boy went missing, so there's been air searches, land, water, all over, and this specific area had actually been searched before. So why wouldn't they have found his remains before?
Well, you know what? It depends on who is searching. You know, if you have just civilians who are kind of looking around, you know, not knowing how a pattern search is done, how to lay out, you know, coordinates and kind of mark where you're searching, you know, and not faulting them for that. You know, they're doing a tremendous job volunteering to try to find this young boy. But, you know, could a 3-year-old who is only 3 feet tall in a little area be overlooked? Sure, it could, unfortunately. But, you know, a lot depends on who is doing it. And you're not going to see the remains of that small of a child from, you know, from the air or anything like that. That's got to be really upfront and close.
As far as the remains, the time lapse from when he went missing to when they're found is really the big question for me, because as I said, it's been 7 months. And I'm wondering the amount of decay over that amount of time. Is there still enough information 7 months later that investigators can collect and learn things like cause of death?
That's going to be tough. If the cause of death had something to do with a break of a bone or something in his vertebrae or even his skull, you know, that will be able to be seen and analyzed. If there's anything skin-wise that might have decayed away, it'll be tougher. But you know what? The experts are going to have it now. The people who do this for a living to try to find causes of death in people are going to look high and low and try to nail that down.
And you know, one of the things I'm just thinking, because I'm somewhat familiar with this area, and it was found on hunting property where a hunter was going to prepare his land. So it's kind of rural, this area. And obviously there's animals, deer, raccoons, etc. Is it possible that the scene could have been disturbed at all? Maybe not by humans, but by animals?
100%. And that happens quite often. Even the, you know, what had happened to his body may be a result of the animals as well. And they'll be able to determine that in, you know, the investigation of the remains.
Moving forward, the Wisconsin Department of Justice of Criminal Investigation is leading the investigation into Elijah's death. Will they be able to determine how long the remains have been outside, even though the condition, we're not entirely sure about it? Could we nail down maybe time of death or time since they were placed there?
They're going to give an estimate. They'll be able to determine, because of the you know, decay of it, they can pin down a good time frame of when that decay started.
Taking a closer look at the information from local police, there are still some question marks about that investigation. So initially we got reports that remains had been found in this Two Rivers area, And investigators at the time made an announcement and said, yes, it's around where Elijah Vu went missing. However, we can't confirm that it's his remains, and it's going to be a lengthy process to determine who the remains belong to. And then a week later, they knew exactly whose remains it was, they said. Why may they have said that it was going to be a lengthy process, and then in 7 days we know?
It's hard to, you don't want to jump the gun until you're 100% right. So you don't want the media to get out in front of, notifying the parent, notifying anybody who might be next of kin or a relative to let them know what had happened. So the wording is a little wanky. I wouldn't have went as far as to say, hey, it's going to be a while. It doesn't take that long. Everyone kind of knew, unfortunately, who it was right up front because of the size, the location, the probably decay that fits in the time frame of his disappearance. So, the wording was a little bad, but that happens during press conferences with cases like this.
So when news broke and they announced that the remains do belong to Elijah, unfortunately, we heard that information, but not really much else. Investigators said, okay, it's no longer an Amber Alert, it's no longer a missing boy or missing person, but it's going to be shifted into a death investigation. That wording is very specific to me. They didn't say homicide, they just said death. What are your thoughts on that part?
Well, and that's the proper terminology because, listen, let's play devil's advocate. Let's play it down the middle. Let's say the young boy did just walk away from the house and get lost, and then just the elements got to him being the age that he was, and that's the...
I wish Sumner County would give us this much information. I wish Eric Craddock would sit down and tell us this much information about Sebastian.
Cause of death. We don't know that yet until it's determined, through the autopsy and the investigation of the remains. So I'm kind of good with that because you want to be right when you're dealing with this, and they'll be able to determine either way, whether natural causes or a murder.
So finally at this press conference, Northeast Wisconsin and really the world that's been following this case got some answers that these are Elijah's remains. But after that, the investigators didn't say much else. They said, we're not going to be answering any questions, and then they promptly just left.
As a reminder, we will not be having questions at this time as we already shared all the information we are available.
Wow. So they said, yep, it was Elijah, but we're not going to tell you nothing about it. To the best of my knowledge, to this day, we don't know. I wasn't able to find more. Okay, let's go back to the first one where we were at because we got to do Kasha.
Kasha Smith. 35-year-old Kasha Smith was reported missing on January 5th after her concerned family members contacted the police. She was last heard from 2 months earlier on November 4th, 2023, and her loved ones found it unusual that she had not spoken to anyone in months. Kasha was last seen at her home in Calder Grove, an area of Edinburgh, Scotland, on October 10th, 2023, at the home she shared with her partner. After she was reported missing, investigators looked into a potential sighting of the mother of three in the Slateford area of the city, but were unable to confirm if the woman seen was Kasha. Following her disappearance, police searched her Calder Grove property, along with a section of the Union Canal, just 100 yards from her home. Officers also combed through a nearby wooded area, along with metal containers not far from the residence. Despite using scent dogs and carrying out multiple searches of these areas, nothing of note was found. Uniformed police began distributing missing posters to locals and in stores to encourage potential witnesses to come forward. Few other details are available on the investigation, but several sources reportedly told the media that the police were concerned that something sinister had befallen Kasha. One of Cash's children, Callie, recently turned 18 and said in a statement, "I recently had my 18th birthday and didn't hear anything from my mum. She would never miss my birthday, my sister's birthdays, or Christmas. We miss her so much. We want nothing more than for my mum to walk through the door and be able to give her a massive hug. It feels like I'm living the worst dream I could ever imagine. I can't express what it would mean to have my mum home. Even the smallest piece of information might be all we need to find her." Cash's mother, Nicola Neal, echoed similar statements, describing how the family were, quote, sick with worry and urging anyone with potential information to come forward. Quote, "Kasha is my friend as well as my daughter, and we are living a nightmare. It is hard for us to find the words to explain the not knowing where she is and if anything has happened to her. These past few weeks have been horrendous and painful for us all." Police, for their part, have stated that they are keeping an open mind about the disappearance and added that they are currently combing through Cash's bank records as part of their investigation. So far, no suspects have been named and no persons of interest have arisen. They also stated that they are keen to speak with friends who may have information about her whereabouts before she was last seen on October 10th, 2023. In late March, cards, balloons, and flowers were attached to a fence near Kasha's home to mark her 36th birthday. Kasha is described as a white woman with long blonde hair and blue eyes. She is 5 foot tall and of a slim build and has several tattoos, one of which is the word forever on her right wrist. She worked at Edinburgh College before she went missing and is known to frequent the areas of Georgie, Broomhouse, and Wester Hales in the city. If you have any information about Kasha's disappearance and reside in Scotland, you can contact Police Scotland on 101. If you are outside of Scotland but still in the UK, you can contact them at 0141 308 1070.
Okay, now I'm going to go to this one and give you a little bit more information about Kasha. All right. This says from the Scotsman, it said man arrested over unaliving of Edinburgh mother missing for almost a year. Okay? And this was September of 2024. And there's a video.
Good afternoon and thanks for coming here today. We've deployed specially trained search officers here today to carry out further work in relation to the ongoing investigation to try and find Kasha Smith and answers for her family. As with every missing person inquiry, all aspects of Kasha's life have and continue to be explored. We know she would never miss events such as her daughter's birthdays and Christmas. We continue to consider the possibility that she may have come to harm. We are constantly evaluating and exploring all the information we have and are doing everything we can to find her. The work here today is part of that ongoing investigation. I would again ask anyone who thinks they may have information in regard to the disappearance of Kasha Smith to please contact Police Scotland on 101 and quote incident reference number 3915 of 5th of January 2024. Thank you.
Okay. Whatever that was, we don't need that. Okay. It said a man has been arrested in connection with the death of a mother who was last seen almost a year ago. Kasha Smith, 35, was last seen on FaceTime call with a friend on 10 October 2023. The mother of 3 from Calder, Edinburgh, was reported missing on 5 January by her family. Police Scotland said the man, aged 39, had been arrested in connection with her unaliving and inquiries are ongoing. This comes after specialist officers began searching an area off Calder Road in Edinburgh on Wednesday as part of the inquiry. Her family had been made aware of developments and are said to be devastated. Detective Chief Inspector Bob Williamson of Police Scotland's major investigation team said, "Our thoughts are very much with Kausha's family at this extremely difficult time, and they continue to be supported by specialist officers. They are understandably devastated, and this is vital we get answers for them. Extensive inquiries remain ongoing to trace Kausha, and I would again encourage anyone with any information regarding her disappearance to contact police as a matter of urgency. Any piece of information, no matter how small or insignificant you think it is, could prove vital, so please get in touch. Anyone with information are asked to call Police Scotland on 101, quoting incident number 3915 of 5 January. Okay. So I looked it up and did a search. Have they found Sasha? Sorry. And the answer was no. She has not yet to this day been found. Okay, now we're going to switch over to Sebastian Rogers. That's probably why all y'all are here. And I appreciate you being here. I really do.
Sebastian Rogers. 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers was reported missing from Hendersonville, Tennessee on the morning of February 26th when his mother went to wake him up for school only to find his bed empty. Katie Proudfoot, Sebastian's mother, said on the night of the 25th, Sebastian took out the trash at the end of the driveway. At around 9 p.m., he was told to go to bed. Katie recalled, quote, "He was doing something in his room because about an hour later, I heard some noise, and I was like, I don't care what you're doing in there, but go to sleep." She described her son as having high-functioning autism and being very smart and not mischievous by any means. At 6 a.m. the following morning, she discovered that he was missing. She first called her husband, Sebastian's stepfather, Chris, and stated, "I can't find him." Chris replied, "What do you mean you can't find him?" Katie recalled answering, "He's not in the house." She searched the entire property from top to bottom, but there was no sign of the 15-year-old. Sebastian has no history of running away from home, and when asked if he had simply wandered off, Katie replied, "I don't know why he walked out that door." After reporting his disappearance to the police, an Amber Alert was issued to locals to help try and track him down. Over the next few months, both state and local police, along with 1,500 volunteers, helped to search for the missing teenager. They used helicopters, drones, and the K-9 unit, while officers on foot combed through fields, abandoned buildings, and any place that a teenager might hide. Authorities even, at one point, played his favorite song, "Eye of the Tiger," while they searched for him, hoping it would draw him out. But still there was no sign of the missing boy. Soon, investigators were meticulously raking through the landfill where the trash from Sebastian's home had ended up. Authorities described this...
Okay. Now, do you see how they're only going about maybe 6 or 8 feet? This was over a week after Sebastian went missing. Oh, you can't see what I'm pointing at. Okay, this is only 6 or 8 feet. This is over a week after Sebastian had gone missing. They'd already put dirt over the top of it, but in a week's time, you're going to get more than 6 or 8 feet of trash. They did not dig deep enough in 4 or 5 hours of searching, in my opinion, to know whether or not Sebastian could possibly have been in that area. I'm sorry, I will not agree that I don't agree with it.
Search as a precautionary measure to eliminate possible options and questions. On March 23rd, the volunteer organization, the United Cajun Navy, revealed that a team was being sent to help in the search for Sebastian after being approached by Seth Rogers, Sebastian's biological father. On April 1st, however, the Independent reported that the group received death threats over its involvement in the case. Although the team stopped searches for Sebastian, it continued to work on the case behind the scenes. A spokesperson for the group stated, "We've never had the situation occur before," referring to the received death threats. The spokesperson added, "No volunteers' information is ever given out or anything like that, but these folks can certainly arrive on scene and cause a problem and a ruckus." On March 25th, Sebastian's mother admitted her fear that her son had been taken by someone, stating, quote, "I feel like if he had been close to the house or had walked off, that we would have found him by now, with as many people as have been searching. Notably, Sebastian had left his family's home without a pair of shoes." 10 weeks after the disappearance, reports came in that a pair of trousers were located by Goodlettsville police and were initially thought to belong to Sebastian. However, upon examination,
They were not. They were found by a searcher, and I believe that was Terry Lynn, and she called them in to Goodlettsville police.
they were ruled out as belonging to the 15-year-old. Details about the trousers, including a description or where they were found, are unclear. 2 months later, in May, a photo emerged online which showed a boy resembling Sebastian at an underpass in North Carolina. His biological father, Seth, told the media that he was convinced the boy in the photograph was his son and called for the FBI to become involved in the investigation. The police, however, disagreed, stating that the boy shown was not Sebastian. They had reached this conclusion after working with the North Carolina authorities to track the boy down. Seth Rogers has since hired a private investigator. 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers was last seen on the night of February 25th, 2024, at his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee. He is described as a white male with brown hair and brown eyes. He is 5'5" and weighs around 120 pounds. When he was last seen, he was wearing a black sweatshirt, black jogging bottoms, and glasses. He is described as having high-functioning autism. Anyone with information about his case can contact the Sumner County Sheriff's Office at 615-442-1865. You can also email Detective Carter at bcarter@sumnersheriff.com. And there you have the facts.
Okay, now I got some more information because just yesterday, Sebastian's dad was back online talking to reporters. Let's see what he had to say.
"453 days since now 16-year-old Sebastian Rogers vanished from his home in Hendersonville. His disappearance sparked national headlines, but now his father says the case is losing momentum. With National Missing Children's Day coming up on Sunday, he is raising his voice and demanding urgency. News 2's Caitlin Quisenberry is outside the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, where Sebastian's father made an emotional plea today. Caitlin.
Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers, was deeply frustrated when he spoke with me. He fears the case is going cold.
I'm going to put credit up on this one. I do have the link in the description below, in the bottom, but I just want to cover all bases.
My son's been missing for 15 months, and they don't care.
Sebastian disappeared in February last year. He was just 15 years old. Initial search efforts involved local police, the TBI, and the FBI, but those physical searches have since shifted to focus. Press conference on the case was more than a year ago.
I would love to see them actually conducting more searches. I'd like to have some communication on the tips that have come in.
It had been more than a year since Eric Craddock got his butt behind a podium and said, "We're still searching. We have not given up hope. Give us any lead. We have not yet found anything that leads us to finding Sebastian." That's all we need to know. But we need to know something. And it's been a year. Y'all know that. 15 months. 15 months. Come on.
Just with me, so that I know that when a tip comes in, I'm not following up on what job they're supposed to do.
Seth says only one detective is actively assigned to the case and that he is often left to chase down the same leads, also sent to law enforcement.
We need more than just one set of eyes on this case, but it all falls on my shoulders to ask people to help find my son. My son means something to me. These people should be doing their job.
In his push for progress, Seth says he's reached out to lawmakers and is even drafting federal legislation aimed at reforming how child protection agencies and the Amber Alert system handle missing children's cases.
It's a federal oversight law on places like CPS, DCS, the Amber Alert, getting it redone and taking it out of people's hands that don't care about the children.
According to the FBI, an estimated 460,000 children are reported missing in the U.S. every year. Seth says every one of those cases deserves attention, including Sebastian's.
A parent demands answers. We demand answers because our heart is missing. He is my world. I need him. I need him back with me.
We reached out to the Sumner County.
I'm going to pause it right here. Let's get through this. Please know that behind the scenes, a tremendous amount of work has been done and will continue. Some aspects of the investigation are not visible to the public due to the sensitive nature of this case. Why would they have to say sensitive nature of the case? I'm serious. What makes this case so sensitive? I understand it's a missing child. I understand he's 15 years old. I understand he has autism. I also understand that his mom and dad and his mom and stepdad, and step grandparents have very deep pockets. Stepdad went to school with Sumner County Sheriff Eric Craddock. Money talks. Just say it. Just say it.
County Sheriff's Office for a statement. They assured us this case remains a top priority and said in part, "Please know that behind the scenes a tremendous amount of work has been done and will continue. Some aspects of the investigation are not visible to the public due to the sensitive nature of the case." Sebastian's family continues to ask for the community's help. If you know.
Wrong. Sebastian's family does not continue to ask. Sebastian's father continues to ask. Please state it correctly.
Know anything about Sebastian's whereabouts, you're asked to call the Sumner County Sheriff's Office or the TBI. Those numbers can be found on our website at WKRN.com. Live in Gallatin, Caitlin Quisenberry, News 2.
So, what is your thoughts? I'm sorry it sounds like I have a temper because I'm not trying to have a temper. I just wish they would see. I mean, not very many people see my posts, but I just wish they would see my post and see the emotion that some little girl from Kansas, a little old Kansas person, some people might call me a hick. I don't know what y'all call people from Kansas. But I have enough passion for Sebastian being found that I don't know, I can't find the words to say, please help. I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if you know anything, if you think you know anything, if you think you see Sebastian, I thought a couple weeks ago I was in my own Walmart right here in Kansas, and I saw a young man that looked like Sebastian. He was with a young lady, a very pretty young lady, that was in her mid-30s, maybe 40. But I don't think she was 40. But very pretty young lady. And I just walked up to the young man. I said, "Excuse me, is your name Sebastian?" He said, "No." I didn't ask him what his name was. That wasn't my business. And his mother, I'm presuming, was over behind me, kind of off to my side here. She said, "No, that's not his name." I said, "Thank you very much. I'm sorry to bother you. I hope you continue to enjoy your shopping here in Walmart." I said, "I just know somebody named Sebastian, and you remind me of Sebastian." It's that simple. It was a Sebastian, but, it could have been. If you'll just do that, watch when you go to your grocery store. Watch when you go to Walmart. Watch when you go to your local mall. If you go to your mall. I mean, when I was younger, we went to the mall. But, watch when you go to these places. If you see somebody that looks like Sebastian, don't hesitate to ask him what his name is. Don't hesitate to ask him, is his name Sebastian? Because we've got to find Sebastian. And I can tell you, you can know if somebody's name is not Sebastian, you're going to know right away when you talk to him. But if he says no, and his face doesn't say no, or his eyes don't say no, you can tell by the look on their face if that's really Sebastian, or if you suspect it might be really Sebastian. Don't hesitate. Go to the next aisle over, a couple aisles. Dial 911. Say you think Sebastian Rogers might be in your store. Let the police come and check this young man out. It's worth looking at the child to say, are you Sebastian? Do you have identification, anything to rule out that it's Sebastian? If I had seen on this young man's face a look that let me think his name actually could have been Sebastian, I would have went over a couple aisles over and dialed 911 and said, "Hey, I think Sebastian Rogers might be in the store." I would have. So please do that. You can look at their face and you can tell if they're really telling you the truth, that that's not their name. Okay. Thank you for being here. I will not be on tomorrow night, but I will be posting a thrifting video tomorrow. In between going and taking care of my friend's dogs in the morning and going and taking care of my friend's dogs in the evening. I will be posting a thrifting video in between there. All right. So thank you for being here. Do something nice for someone. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Thank you to anybody who did serve, is serving, has served, plans to serve. Thank you. And do something nice for someone, even if it's just be the reason they smile today, and get lockered.